Did you get it? Did you get it?
I thought I'd just sit here and stare at you. Just.
Do you know what's weird is I had a minute because I've not stopped my notifications on my phone, and and it says Keir Starmer, Fears for Kids.
What in what context? What do you mean?
Don't know.
Just in general, he's just fearing for them.
Yeah, Fears for Kids. Don't know if he means his own kids or the popular. I mean, if he's going to be Prime Minister, then it's not a bad place to start.
Like, how old are the kids that he's fearing about? Every under 18?
He didn't specify. Just said Fears for Kids.
What, just in front of a news camera, or has this been leaked at home?
It was a notification on my phone, so I don't know the context, but I know Keir Starmer Fears for Kids.
Do you?
I could do, yeah. Could do. If they were in a bad environment, yeah, I would fear for kids.
So anyway, the Sony Burano. I'm only joking.
Would I fear for kids Sony Burano? What does that mean? Would I fear for kids Sony Burano? It's like you're asking somebody called Sony Burano, do they fear for kids?
Where did they get that name from? The Burano? Is that like a place or something? Because that's what they usually do, isn't it? They usually go for... Well, a lot of these companies go for places in California.
It's Mexican for well-endowed man.
Is it really? Do you actually know that, or you just made that up?
That's what Burano means.
Does it? Does it really?
Yeah, yeah.
Doesn't mean fear for kids. Fear for amigos.
Sony, fear for kids. I hope not. I hope not. Speaking of which, speaking of Sony, as a Sony user, I saw something quite interesting. I saw that Canon have brought out a new cinema camera. Have you seen it?
Well, you told me about it, and I said I'd wait for now so that you could educate me about it. So, let me know what it's all about.
Well,
I haven't seen anything to do with it, so.
Right, this is going to be quite a short lesson then. I have this. I'll tell you the specs of the new C400. It looks really nice, honestly. It really does. It's 6K camera. I think 6K is a sweet spot right now. Not because we're broadcasting 6K, but you can film in 6K and then you can crop in a bit, and you've got more play. You've got more to play around and pull in post production, and still get a 4K image out of it. And I think obviously it's kind of future proofing then. So when everything finally moves to 6K, you've got a 6K camera. So that's good. It's got 3 base ISO, not 2 but 3.
3.
So it's got it's got 3. Yeah.
Wow.
So it's got 12. I know. Yeah. So it's got like I don't know. I think it's 800, 3,200, and 12,800, which obviously is the same as like the Sony FX3, A7S3, and FX6. So it's got that high base. It's got a middle one. It's got a nice middle one. And then it's got the standard, the one that we all know about. I think it's 800. So, yeah, it's got that, which is, I suppose that they're probably thinking, why go all the way 12,800 when you can just have, it's either 3,200 or 6.4, I'm not sure, but it's in the middle anyway. So it's got that, which is a feature. It can shoot in internal RAW as well, like quite a lot of Canon cameras can, but it's 12-bit. So it's not 16-bit like the Red cameras. So if you're a Red user, you'll probably say it's not true RAW. I don't know if it is or it isn't. Don't really care. Other things that are quite nice on it, if you want to compare it, say, like the FX6, and one of its biggest gripes is it has XLRs on the body rather than the top handle. So if you remove the top handle, you can still get professional audio into your camera. The caveat is the mini XLRs, so they made them smaller so they can fit on like they've got on the C70 and they've got on the Blackmagic cameras. So you'd have to get like an adapter lead from mini XLR to standard size XLR. Again, the only reason I think they've done this is size, because there's a lot of peripherals on the back. They've got all time code. They'll have SDI. They'll have HDMI. They've got a lot of things like that, like you'd expect in most cinema cameras. What is good? Let me think. Don't know about the actual external monitor, but the viewfinder monitor, but the handle now connects with USB Type-C. The good thing about that is if you want to put your own cable on to extend it when you say if you put it on a shoulder rig and you want the handle down here and things like that, instead of messing around with all the third-party systems, what say you have to do with Sony and whatnot, you can just get your own USB Type-C lead. And USB Type-C is everything right now. It's the leading connector, I would say. So that's quite good. Is it a deal breaker? No. These are my thoughts about it currently. If I was a Canon user, I'd be really, really happy because it's always full frame as well. It's full frame. I think, before I go into action, I think it's around about 8,000 UK pounds still. I think that's how much it costs, about £8,000. So it's more expensive than the FX6. These are my thoughts. Is it enough to make me want to change over from Sony? No, not at all. When I look at a camera, it's my companion. It's how well it can accompany me when I go to a filming job. For example, I want superb autofocus. No doubt it's got that, but so's the FX6, what I've currently got. It's got NDs. They're not variable NDs, but they're really good NDs, but so's the FX6. Yeah, I can't get XLRs on the actual body. I'm not too bothered. I don't ever use it without the top handle. If I did, I'd just time code it. So to an external recorder. Once upon a time, cinema cameras didn't even have audio on them, so it doesn't really bother me. It's got RAW, which is nice. It's got the 12-bit RAW, which is kind of an intermediate thing. It's not the 16-bit, but it probably is better than S-Log3 Cine, which I use all the time. Is it so much better to make when I trade my camera in, pay more money and trade on my lenses, lose money? Not no. If you know how to expose S-Log3, yeah, you're good. You can do pretty much anything with it. It's really, really nice. It's only when you absolutely mess it up that you probably need something like RAW, and it's not even the full 16-bit RAW. So yeah, it's a really nice camera. One thing about it, what I did notice, what I've not heard too many people talk about, the C70 has a dual gain output sensor, which means it's got two sensors working simultaneously. So the dynamic range is absolutely fantastic on it, where it's got one to capture all the shadows and the darkness, but one to control all the high exposed areas of it as well. So it creates so much dynamic range between the darkest parts and the overexposed brightest parts, and this one doesn't. It's just got this triple base ISO, which I don't care about at all. Honestly, I could just put my FX6 12800 and just roll through the ND until it gets the right exposure that I want. Having that middle balance exposure is not something that I particularly need. If I was a Canon user, yeah, either that or I don't know. It's not good enough though. It's not so much of a step up from the FX6 to make me want to change over. So now you've heard my thoughts. What do you think?
Well, I want to know how much of a jump is it from 10-bit to 12-bit?
There's a mathematical equation. I don't know what it is, but there is. But I don't think it matters to me personally. Yeah, 12-bit. I think the difference between 10-bit and 12-bit, I wonder what it is compared to 8-bit and 10-bit, because that was quite a big jump. But with 10-bit, I can do pretty much anything I want to anyway. I don't feel like I need 12. If I really needed 12-bit, then I would get the Atmos external and just shoot raw 12-bit on my FX6. But I don't feel I need it. I feel I'm actually putting another thing in my production workflow, what I don't actually need. My goal is to make everything as simple and as user-friendly as possible. The way I pack up my FX6, where I have the monitor to a side, I have the doctor-style bag where I can just pick it up and put it on a tripod. It's pretty much fully set up. I put the shotgun mic in, that's all the thing I actually have to do. I don't, when I'm editing, just literally memory card into the computer, upload it, and off I go. I want as few steps. I don't want to make my life difficult. So an external monitor just to get that 12-bit, is it worth it for me? No, not for what I do.
So what would you say it is definitely the FX6 that this camera would be competing with?
Yeah. I think the Komodo X is a different kind of camera. The Red Komodo X is 16-bit RAW. It's absolutely fantastic. The flexibility that you have in post-production is amazing when you go to 16-bit. But other things will let it down in comparison to the FX6 and the new Canon C400. The main thing is like the autofocus. The other things as well, it doesn't have the built-in ND filters, so you're dealing with external ND filters on your camera. For me, the red cameras are very much when you're in a controlled environment. If you can control all your peripherals, you control for example, the lighting. If you can control the set, everything like that, then that's the way to go, because you're going to get the most out of that sensor because it's fantastic. It's 16-bit. But if you are running around, run and gun, plus it's more expensive as well. The Komodo X, I think it's around about 10k now. But if you want something with great autofocus, you want the NDs on it. Also, as well, you want to shoot on. You can still shoot on SD cards. You can't do that with the Komodo X. If you want something that's more of a all-in-one, can do it all kind of thing, then it's the FX6, and that's where the C400 lies. It lies against the FX6. Blackmagic have brought out, I can't remember what it's called, whatever it is. It's a box camera, which is pretty much the same as the new cinema camera 6K. Again, it's. I'm just not that bothered about it. It's the same things again. The autofocus won't be there. I don't think it's got variable NDs built in. For me, the FX6 is still leading the way. This Canon camera is really, really nice, but it's not worth me changing over.
Well, that's it, isn't it? You've got to weigh up. Like, at the end of the day, it's a business decision. So, is it going to make sense for you to move from the FX6 to buy this new camera, spend more money on the new camera, and then go through? It's not just the hassle of selling the lenses and stuff like that. It's learning the new ecosystem as well. And if you're like us and you're shooting every week, you can't just sort of throw yourself in there. So maybe the ideal situation would be, if you're going to consider moving systems, would be to rent it first and take it out on a shoot and see what it's like. Do we know what mount it is? It is the new Canon mount that they've got.
Yeah, it's the RF mount. It's so far. I mean, it'll build up in time. There's limited lenses on that, but you can put a PL mount on it as well, so you can shoot PL. The RF, it's the same one that's on the C70, but you can obviously buy an adapter as well and put EF glass on it, which is the older mount system what Canon had. Again, Sony, for me, they pushed hard almost at the right point. I think it was mainly with the A7S3. They got so many people over with that camera, shooting 10-bit in 120 frames. It's such a small system. It's got built-in IBIS. You can build it up, as so many people have, and it was between 3 and 4K in price. It's just an absolute little beast. What you can do so much with. I think at that point a lot of people jumped over, and then around that, Sony have built their own ecosystem where you can see an actual line of progression with the FX30. This is just in the cinema line as well. The FX30, the FX3, the FX6, 9. Then you're going into Burano. After Burano, then obviously you're going into the bigger boys. But as we know, as much as I can bang on and praise Sony, there's a couple that they have kind of left behind as well.
And what are those?
Well, I would probably say the A7S3, even though it's still a good camera. It's cheaper, but obviously they keep updating the FX3, which is the exact same sensor, and making it a full cinema camera. But there are very few updates for the A7S3. And the one which really surprises me, when they brought out the A1, what was their flagship? It was literally the A1. That was the most expensive camera, and what you could do, 8K, do so many things on such a small camera body. That seemed like the golden boy in the mirrorless range, but didn't seem to be like that. Shortly afterwards, they brought out the FX3, which then sits in line with the cinema cameras. And even the FX30, which is the cheaper camera, they're getting all the updates. Where the A7 III, even the A7 IV, they kind of sit in a weird place. They're not photography cameras, but they're also not in the cinema line. They do both, but they're really kind of holding back on software updates for it.
Well, it was almost like for a long time it was the A7R, the A7, and then the A7S, and they were pushing those three all the way. And you could have, it was very user friendly. You could choose one of the three. If you're a generalist, you get the one without the R or the S, or if you're more video, you get the S. And then we got to the A7S3, and pretty much not long after we got the FX series, and then everything sort of changed to the point where you get the R, you're really in photography, and then you get the cinema line FX30 or FX3 if you're more into filmmaking. And then the S3, and I'm someone who still has an S3, I'm sort of left without any updates and stuff, and it's kind of it's a little bit disheartening though, because like what are you supposed to do with it? It's in a funny kind of position where is it worth going to sell it and then lose money on it, and then invest the extra to get an FX3. But then the problem that I have is the jump between the A7S3 and the FX3 is not that big where I would need to move over, because I could sort out the timecode issue by buying a timecode device. That's the biggest one for me, would be timecode. But then, as we were speaking about the other day, we had a disagreement in our workflows about how we use viewfinders. I really find viewfinders very handy, and you prefer to have an external monitor. So that's where I would prefer the A7S3 over the FX series, because I do use the viewfinder quite a bit, and I'd find it quite cumbersome with my workflow to have an external monitor.
I love the FX30 and the FX3. I love how ergonomic they are. I love how all the cinema features are just there, a touch of a button, the white balance. For example, ISO, I can just easily jump between the base ISOs. It's just really user friendly. It's got a built-in fan on it. It's got, but you said you can on yours. Actually, I didn't realise this. I was going to say you can upload your LUT, so you can kind of preview it, so you know what kind of LUT you're going to get for the edit. Even though it doesn't, I found it doesn't always match. I find them really, really good cameras. For me, it's up to Sony now. It'll be interesting what they do. Are we going to see an A7S4?
Yeah, that's what I was about to ask. Do you think that'll happen?
I really don't know, because there was, you had it exactly right. There was two clear pathways. One was the R series, which is re-photography. The other one was S for video, and then, well, three should I say, and then the middle one was almost like, it's not as good at video as the S line, it's not as good at photography as the R line, but it's still excellent in both, and that was like the A3. Sorry, the A7 III, the A7 IV. That progression pathway seems to have changed as they seem to have been more pushing the new cinema line. Even the bodies of them, they've changed the bodies. They're in this, obviously, kind of like that grey kind of colour now, away from the black. They've changed the look and style of it so it fits in with the FX line, moving away to differentiate between the A7 mirrorless line, what they previously had, even though, as anybody knows, that the sense on the A7S3 and the FX3 is exactly the same.
Yeah. I think my workflow going forward, I'll probably end up selling my A7S3 at some point, but I won't be getting an FX3. I'll get whatever the next version is, so the FX4, if that happens. That's probably where I would go to. I don't see that much of a jump for me to go to the FX3. Maybe I'll change my mind in a few months, but I don't think it's worth me going through the hassle and losing so much money on the deal to do that.
Yeah, I agree. And to be honest, I don't even know if I'd even bother with the next iteration, because the FX3 is going to come down in price when the FX4 comes out, or whatever's next. And it's still an amazing camera. Like I think we spoke about on a previous podcast, that some people are still using the FS7 or the FS5 Mark II, things like that. And they're still going out there and they're still shooting and doing a great job. And I think this, when we see a new camera come out, we see its new features, we gravitate to it and we kind of tell ourselves like, oh, we've got to have this, we've got to have that. So if anything, I think when the FX4 came out, or the A7S4, if that ever becomes a thing, I think I'd probably get the model what's currently out, because it can still do everything that I want it to do, and it's going to be a fraction of the price of what it is today.
Well, that's what I mean. I'd get the FX4, but not straight away as soon as it comes out. I think my A7S3 is going to be good for a couple of years. I don't think I need to replace it anytime soon. I don't see anything out there that would really entice me to do that from because the A7S3 does everything I need it to do for what I do, which is mainly wedding films. And then, but my favourite camera though is the A7 IV. I think the A7 IV is an absolute beast of a camera, and I would choose it any day over the A7S3 because of its versatility with photography as well, and because of its downsampling. Didn't you tell me it was downsampled from 8K, or was it 6K?
Might be 7K. It is. I'd have to find out. I don't want to say because I'm not quite sure, but it is a downsampled sensor. So the sensor actually on the dynamic range tests, the A7 IV actually produces a better image than the FX3, FX6, and the A7S3, unless you're going into low light situations, because them cameras have got that really high second base ISO 12,800, and I think at that point they'll take over.
Yeah,
because they've got because that sensor is fantastic for low light. I don't even know. I did have an A7 IV, but I don't anymore. I don't even know what the high base ISO is for the A7 IV, or even if it even has one.
Yeah, it does. I think it's 12,800.
No, it's not. It's definitely not. It's not 12,000. I think it's. Yeah, I know what it is. It's 3,200.
Is it 3,200? I've never used it.
Yeah, it's 3,200. It's 2.5 on the FX30, 3.2 on the A7 IV. It is, I've remembered, and 12.8 on the FX3.
It's 12.8 on the
A7S.
S3 then, isn't it?
Yeah, it's it's the same sensor. Internally, it's the exact same camera. The only difference is obviously the cinema features, the ergonomics of the camera, and it's got a built-in fan, which is if you're using it in like a warm studio or a hot environment, the fan will do its job, and there shouldn't be any overheating problems. I live in the UK. I live in the north of the UK, as you know. It never ever gets hot.
Yeah, it's quite grim, isn't it?
Yeah, it is actually. It's quite a grim summer so far. I say summer loosely, but I don't need it. I don't have an A7S III anymore. I did for a long time. It's amazing. I think it's a great little camera, and all its shortcomings versus the FX3, you can make up for. Like, for example, if you've got an external monitor, you can get waveform on it. You can put in your false color and your lux and all these different things, and that's how I used to rig it up. And like you said, the other advantage of it, if you're using like you use, it's got that viewfinder as well. So if that's something that is important to you, that actually gives it an edge over the FX3.
Yeah, it does, especially when you're shooting on like a very sunny day. It can be quite handy to get that other perspective in there and see what's going on with it. Because don't you need for an external monitor, you need the hood thing that goes on it as well to help with that, so you can see a bit more.
Yeah, well, it depends on how many nits it is, the monitor. If it's a super bright one, you might get away with it, but yeah, you might need to put a hood on it if it's a really bright day. Otherwise, you're not going to see your image properly, so then what's the point, really? I use an external monitor all the time. I like its flexibility. I can glance down at it and move it around. I don't have to hold it up to my eye. I like getting different kind of angles when I'm shooting, especially when I'm shooting sports as well. And I like all different functions that good external monitors have. But again, if you get a bad external monitor, it can be a hindrance if your colours are off. If it's not showing you the right colours and you think, yeah, I'm nailing it, and then you get back to the edit and you think, oh my god, the white, but it just looks different. The white balance looks off. It looks different than what it did when I was filming it. That's because your monitor's not that great. And it happens quite frequently. That's why a lot of people like, say, for example, the small HD monitors. I've got a field world monitor, and I know some people think they're okay, I know some people don't, but it's never let me down. And it's a lot more affordable than the small HD monitors.
How much do they go for?
It depends which one you're going to get, but you know, they can be up to half the price of a small HD. Small HD are really, really good, and I like the usability on them. I like a lot of the features on them, but a lot of the features you get on the field world as well. But is it as good of a monitor? Maybe not. I don't know. But again, I've got to be realistic. These things cost a lot of money, and that's one thing that's not going to go away in our industry. That you can get a camera, but if you need an external monitor, if you need a shotgun mic, if you add in all these other extras on it to rig it up, V-mount battery, then you're going to have a cage, and you might have to have rails, all these different things. Before you know it, you've doubled the price of your setup just to get it to where it wants to be. So every now and then you have to make little sacrifices, and people might think, well, don't sacrifice on the monitor, but I have to be realistic. It does the job, and it's never ever let me down.
Well, you've got to think about it. You've got an allocated budget for your filmmaking, which is always a good idea to have an allocated budget for your business and stuff. You've got to put it into certain places, and you're going to be getting a better monitor but sacrificing audio quality, or you're going to be sacrificing, say, advertising, or you're going to sacrifice something else. You know what I mean? Something else has got to give in your budget to be able to make way for the monitor, and I'd agree with you. It's quite small on my list as well. I'd take the monitor. I've got the same one. I think we've got the same monitor with the Field World one. You've got the 5-inch one, haven't you? I'm not sure. I don't remember what inch it is. I haven't used it in ages. But I
think yours is 5-inch.
Well, what's yours?
I got 7-inch. I find it better to use that it's bigger.
It's more like what you do with the monitor though, really, than just the size of it.
Up sometimes, can you? You can't even get it on your camera, can you? Sometimes you can't even get it up.
No, I don't need to use it all the time. Like I was saying just then, it's in a box at the minute.
Maybe you'll get it out one day, but no, in
probably,
the time being.
I think it's seen its best days. It's kind of on the way out now.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, you're right. I agree with you that it's important that you don't spend an absolute fortune on things that how much is it going to benefit you when it comes to actually shooting, when you can save a couple of hundred on that and then you can put a couple of hundred towards something else where you're actually genuinely going to need like better audio.
Do you think there will ever be a situation where you could justify getting the Apple Vision Pro and trying to use that with a camera?
I don't know. It'd have to, for one, Apple would have to have a full integration into the camera system of like with Sony or whoever they partner with, won't they? And I don't know if they do that. I don't actually know why Apple have not yet brought their own cinema camera or mirrorless camera out.
Yeah.
Because like look at the iPhones. Look at, I mean, they've got like shooting log now. They've got ProRes on them.
Would that not go against that whole thing of you don't need a camera though? You can just use your iPhone.
I think even Apple will be aware because they do tier their systems like the phone or the laptop sort of like that. That there is always going to be. People have shot some really good stuff on phones, to be honest, but I do think there's always going to be a market for a true professional camera. I think it renders the image differently. I don't know. Fast forward 5 to 10 years, and then we might not be able to differentiate between a cinema camera and an iPhone. I don't know. The technology in iPhones seems to be really improving, but a lot of it is to do with the sensor as well. The sensor is really small compared to, say, a full frame or even a Super 35 sensor in a camera.
So, we've talked about the cameras and stuff. Let's talk about what we hinted at last week, which is post-production software.
Good. What are you using, Tom? What's your weapon of choice in the post world?
Well, I originally came from Premiere. I was a Premiere guy, where I learned how to use Premiere from you, actually. You did,
didn't you? Anyway,
in formal education.
Yeah.
So I started on Premiere. Then I migrated to DaVinci 4 years ago, 2020. And recently I've just started using, in the past couple of weeks, I've started using CapCut as well, which is a very interesting bit of software because a lot of us know about the traditional editing softwares like DaVinci and Premiere and Final Cut Pro. But CapCut's going for a completely different market. It's solely aimed at short videos and content creation for platform. Well, it's made by TikTok. Did you know that? It's made by TikTok. So it's
didn't know.
Yeah, it's their own software that they use. Because if you go on TikTok and you look at videos on there, it says like edited with CapCut and stuff. Because you can get it on your phone as well, and a lot of people use it on there. It's very powerful stuff, and it's definitely geared towards that short kind of thing. You can't really do much with it in terms of color grading or traditional editing and stuff. But you can import a lot of trending templates and stuff. So you see those templates that you're watching on TikTok where it's got like best 5 places to go and X place and videos like that. You can use TikTok to get those templates, and all it is it's like a drag and drop system with clips, and then you finish with that, and then you can take it into a basic color grading thing where you can sort of adjust, like it says brightness, things like that. It's very user friendly like that. But you can actually use LUTs and stuff, so you can do a bit of a basic grade. Now, the way that I would work with say, like I run a travel channel as well, TikTok. I would take your clips that you've got, put them into DaVinci, chop them down, or Premiere, and then I would export the individual clips into CapCut, and then I would edit them in CapCut. That's how my workflow is on there, and then use that to take it to TikTok.
Why isn't that not like, to play devil's advocate, isn't that putting an extra step in your process, in the flow, which actually can slow you down? Can't you, for the sake of it just being uploaded to TikTok or Instagram or whatever, doesn't CapCut have the ability to just get the job done anyway?
Well, see, the problem that I would have is if you're taking your raw files over to CapCut, it doesn't really.
What do you mean by raw? What do you mean raw, or do you mean log, or do you mean?
No, I mean like the files that you get from the camera, whatever they are, whether they're raw or just the image files from the camera. If you take them without processing them in any kind of way and put them into CapCut, the program's going to struggle with that. And I've tested it before. It doesn't particularly handle my A7S3 footage particularly well. But if you take it to, say, DaVinci first, and you color grade in DaVinci, you get, say for example, this is the way I would work on, say I take a trip to Banff. I would take all the clips that I've got from Banff that are usable, trim them down so that the like when you have the bit where you pull the camera up, you get rid of all stuff like that, so you don't have to cut it in CapCut. And then I would color grade all that and then export it in something like ProRes, an easy to read file format so that CapCut can read it quite easily. Then take it to CapCut, and then you drag and drop into the different templates and you edit multiple videos from that. That's going to save you time rather than coming up with these TikTok ideas and stuff, because a lot of what TikTok and Instagram are pushing are very similar kinds of videos if you look on there, so they all have the same sort of templates and stuff on there. So if you're trying to do things and get videos out quicker, then it's going to save you time in your workflow rather than creating something from scratch, having to download music and stuff each time you do it.
Can you have is there an app for it for your phone?
Yeah, there is.
I can see that being really beneficial for people if they can film something like a reel wherever they might be at, wherever they are, whatever they're doing. Then they can get that reel, they can put it into CapCut, so they can basically doing everything on your phone.
Yeah, well, that's the benefit of it. Yeah, if you're using your phone, the files are straight there for CapCut to access. But I'm talking about if you're going to use a camera to do this as well.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about like what's CapCut's issue with the files that it's getting from like your A7S3?
It just mustn't be. It's not handling the GPU and CPU very well. A bit like the way Premiere does it, where you notice performance is a bit better on DaVinci than Premiere, but it'll be just a bit more lopsided. I've not looked into it that much because I've not been using it that much. I've not been using it that long, but I have noticed that if I take files straight from the A7S3 and put them into CapCut, we're running into it. It will play the files and stuff, but it's very laggy. It's not as smooth as editing in, say, DaVinci.
What does it look like? Is it like got a timeline? Does it have a bin? What does it look like when you open it up?
Yeah, there's bins on there. There's timelines on there. You can do stuff like that. It's a lot more basic than what you would get in, say, DaVinci. But there's two different things that you can do. You can go in and you can edit a video from scratch on there. So if you were doing something very basic, there's no problem in just editing your video straight from there. But what I'm saying to use is to go and use the templates and stuff, because they've got loads of templates on there, and you'll see these templates on TikTok and on Instagram and on YouTube Reels and stuff. This is what everyone uses, and you can just choose whichever one that you want. It'll add in one of the trending sounds that you can use in TikTok, and then you put your clips in there, and when you upload to TikTok, because it's come from CapCut, you'll have that trending song. It'll recognize that, and it'll change it'll say original audio when you first upload, and then it'll change it to that song, so then your video will rank on TikTok for those sounds as well.
Does it doesn't make the cuts for you though, does it? Or is there a way that it can make the cut? It does.
It does, but you can change that afterwards.
So, like for example, say if I wanted to do, let's talk about something that you said. Say if I went on vacation and I went down to Miami for the week, and I had like several different kind of shots. I don't know, beach stuff, South Beach. Shot of some of the hotels and maybe the skyline. So I've got all this loose footage, and I want to put it all together so it's like a montage of my time in Miami. What do I do? How will it cut it for me?
So you'll go in and you'll if you were doing this on your camera, you're talking about.
Imagine that I filmed it on my, I don't know, on an FX3 or an A7S3, so I filmed it on that. Imagine that I've graded it. Imagine that I think, all right, okay, I'll take Tom's advice, it's a bit laggy on that. Imagine that I put it into Resolve, whatever, I've graded it, I really like the footage, it looks great. By the way, is CapCut only vertical, or is it landscape as well?
It's both, landscape as well.
You can do it, all right, okay. So imagine I've got the footage, I've graded it looks really nice, I'm happy with it. Then I'll take it over to CapCut, drop it into CapCut. I just want it to edit it for me, so I can then upload it to TikTok and Instagram. So I've got this beautiful little memento of my Miami vacation.
So it won't edit the video for you, but what it will do is it will present boxes at the bottom where the timeline is, and it will show you the cuts and stuff at the bottom. And what you do is drag and drop your clip that you want into each of the boxes. That makes sense, and then it'll give you a video based on that.
Right. Okay. So I just like literally drop all my clips in, then what's the difference between doing that and putting all them side by side in the timeline?
Well, then you'd have to do it yourself when you'd have to edit to a beat, or you'd have to edit to a song, you'd have to get the song, you'd have to do this and do that.
Does that when you put it in the box, does it cut to the beat?
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty good. That can be effective and save a lot of time. Can you do other things as well, like for example on this podcast when we do shorts, and then obviously there's text that subtitles what we're saying. Does it do anything like that?
It does, but you shouldn't do that in CapCut. You should do that in TikTok, and then or Instagram. So if you go into TikTok when you're uploading a video, there's a little drop down that you click and it says captions. You want to use that rather than using it within CapCut or within DaVinci. You don't put your text on in DaVinci because TikTok's going to recognize those captions and rank the keywords for them. So say if I've got a TikTok of say us now talking about CapCut, and then the caption for me says CapCut right now, TikTok will recommend that to people who are interested in CapCut because it's on there because the caption's from their platform.
So it feeds into the algorithm. So what TikTok are doing is quite clever. They're getting more people. Do you have to pay for CapCut, by the way?
No, it's free.
That's interesting. So they've built this free editing software that works seamlessly with the social media platform. So more people, if TikTok does well, then more people like to use CapCut, so they partner each other well. And also as well, if you're using this, it works better. For example, that it appears more on the algorithms by using its own subtitle text feature rather than if you're using other software. So basically, if you do what they want you to do and you use the software that they want you to use, there's more chance that you will get further on the social media platform.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so it's like they're building through the editing software and they're building a little ecosystem, aren't they?
Well, exactly, yeah. That's the point. The point is to keep you making content for their platform because it's geared towards what they're doing.
So if you did all these steps and you did everything through TikTok, then you can export that video from TikTok. Then you can upload that video to your other social medias. For this case, we'll say Instagram. Now, because the text hasn't been created in Instagram, it's been created in TikTok. Will that have any impact on the algorithms on Instagram?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't affect because it's baked in at that point, and I don't believe Instagram has a captions feature. So you'd have to do the captions manually for Instagram, or you'd have to just upload the video from TikTok. Because I don't believe there's a captions feature for Instagram. Right.
So there's no benefit yet with Instagram because until they do that, then it'll leave people in a quandary. Do I do my text through Instagram or through TikTok, won't they? And maybe this is why, like a lot of people are saying, I know you said that the engagement through TikTok is easier to see and easier to get, and it's easier to generate more views and more following on, well, not more following, but more views and more interactions on TikTok than what it is on Instagram now.
Well, from the way I understand it, and these things change every week, so it's hard to stay on top of what they're doing. But the way I understand it right now, if you upload a video to Instagram, it'll sort of be pushed out to the people you follow and stuff. But it's hard to grow organically on there because it doesn't push it to strangers that much unless it's valued content. And other people are interacting with it already. So it's kind of hard to grow more Instagram. Whereas if you start with TikTok, the way that they work is any video that you upload to TikTok, it will guaranteed pushed out to 200 people. It'll always get 200 views. And then what happens is TikTok's going to use those 200 impressions that you get, and it's going to decide whether people are, like how it does a lot of things. It'll look at how often people are watching it, how long they watch it for, whether they watch it again and let it replay, whether they're reading the caption, whether they're liking it, saving it, commenting on it. And if they're doing some of these things, it'll push it to more people. So then you'll get another 200 views. And then if it does well with them 200 views, you'll get another 200 views. You know what I mean? It works like that. Whereas Instagram, you see more like maybe 3 or 4 video views and stuff. Whereas TikTok, it's always 200. And then if it's qualified at that 200, you'll get way more.
It's almost like it's a more effective system.
Yeah, it is. It's easier to grow, way easier, because of that system.
Instagram is Meta, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised they've not reacted accordingly and tried to make Instagram work as effectively as TikTok. It seems to be, instead of trying to get it as effective as TikTok, they seem to be trying to shut TikTok down. I keep hearing all these things that it's It's a Chinese, isn't it? It's a Chinese program, TikTok.
Singaporean.
It's from Singapore. You keep hearing that in the West, namely the US, and then we often follow suit here in the UK. I don't know much about what Canada will do, but I don't know if it'll happen. But you keep hearing pushes that they're trying to ban TikTok.
Yeah, I'm seeing that. It's going to be hard to ban a program like that. And then if they're talking about banning the software, does that not make them as bad as, say, the Communist Party of China for doing the same? Because I actually went to China a couple of months ago. I don't know if we spoke about this, but when I was there, you can't access anything on the internet. It's really difficult.
Yeah. You told me it's a different world out there.
So would that not make them just as bad for doing something like that?
Well, it's all about it's always about the without going too much down this path. It's always about how they justify it and how they say we're doing this for protect. Because I hear things as well, like TikTok in the East, in China, wherever it might be. It's different than the one that they have. It's not as mind numbing. It isn't as addictive as the TikTok that they have in the US and UK, Canada, etc. in the Western world, Europe. I don't know if it's a conspiracy theory, but supposedly it's actually works differently. It's almost like a modern tool to dumb down the Western world. I don't know. There's all these rumours about, there's all these conspiracy theories about the real purpose of TikTok.
Well, it's interesting because a lot of these social media apps, I think we spoke about this before, they've changed the way they work, whereas it used to be you searching for things, but now it's more them recommending and showing you what they want you to see. This isn't a conspiracy theory, you can test this yourself, you can see it yourself when you go on these platforms and stuff. Like if you go on, using TikTok as an example, one thing that I'm searching quite often on there is like Vancouver real estate stuff, Vancouver real estate videos and stuff, and seeing what's trending on there, what's top and stuff. It's always the same videos. It's always the same videos that are always at the top. It's never like, I'm not talking about the same people, the exact same videos are always there at the top. It's never anything different. And what that sort of says to me is we're not interested in you searching for what you want to find. It's more you've searched Vancouver real estate. Now we'll show you in your For You page more stuff related to that we want you to see based on the algorithm.
Yeah, it's to the point on Instagram on the search. If you click on something once, like I want this guy, this crazy face tattoo. So it's like, whoa, clicked on it. And then the next thing, I'm just getting loads of crazy face tattoo things. I don't care about face tattoos. I'm not that bothered. It's not my thing. So then you have to start clicking into it and like, click. I'm not interested. You have to tell the algorithm, I'm not interested in face tattoos. I just clicked on it that one time because it was like, what is going on with that guy? It'd be, especially when now obviously like Apple, they announced with a new phone that it's going to have built-in chat GPT-4, so you can do different things with the AI. Obviously that's obviously connected to the internet, it's connected to the phone. Whilst there'll be lots of benefits to where you can gather information quickly and accurately and you can get it to do different things for you, it'll probably push technology and social media in the next, not long, I'd say the next 2 or 3 years, into a whole new realm.
Yeah.
And there's always this debate. I don't know if this debate comes from the fact that we're all very familiar with certain science fiction films, like the Terminator films, for example, where the machines turn on us, or anything along those lines where AI turns and then destroys us, or we end up in an AI war or anything like that. I don't know if it's because of that reason or because it's a genuine issue. Like when we see things like Boston Dynamics and we see what they can do. And then no nation is ever going to give up the development of AI because they're scared to death that their rivals will then have a superior AI system than what they've got. And then if it ever comes to some kind of international conflict, they'll be dominant because they've got the superior AI. So it's a runaway train, and it's going to be interesting how that then infiltrates, because what we're talking about now about algorithms, in the next 5 years, it's going to be so basic.
Yeah, because of the advancements in how things are moving along. But I've heard some different stuff about that as well. I've heard that the current rate of technological growth is actually slowing, and it'll be for a reason I don't think you'd expect. It's because of the baby boomers.
Go on, explain.
Do you know about this? Because a lot of the baby boomers are moving into retirement. So a lot of their, if you know the way that investment capital works, it's usually the people who are just before retirement age who have their investments in growth stocks and bonds and things like that. So their money's being lent out to these tech companies to develop new technologies. And I'm hearing that a lot of investment that was coming from the baby boomers has now been reversed because they're all retiring and taking their money back into like safe bets like government bonds, things like that. So a lot of the investment capital across the Western world, not so much in the East because they have younger populations apart from China, their investment capital's kind of evaporated. So the rate of technological growth is due to slow quite a bit for the next couple of years until the millennials become more 40s and 50s age.
It's going to be interesting. I just think there's moments in history what are accelerators, where technology goes leaps and bounds beyond what people could ever imagine only 10, 15 years previous. I think one accelerator was the internet. It just, if you went back to say, I don't know, the 80s, 70s, probably even the early 90s, and you sat somebody down that, by 2024, this can happen, this can happen, this can happen, all through the internet. How we're communicating right now, and I'm in the UK and you're in Canada even, and we're communicating like we're sat face to face. All the different things that it's allowed, and all these different things just appear on this little device that sits in our pocket. It would be unbelievable. You couldn't comprehend it because you couldn't understand it. Because how do you explain the internet to somebody who has no idea about that degree of technology? So if you take that kind of theory and then you think about, well, in 20 years there could be something out there what's also incomprehensible to us right now, and what sits in between then and now, I think, is the next accelerator, which is AI. And whereas AI has been around for quite a long time, we forget that. There's been artificial intelligence for a long time, but they're almost a sentient element and the self-learning of what like ChatGPT and Sora and all these have right now through access to the internet. If they start building their own systems and developing things on their own timescales rather than the human timescales, then the future could be exponentially different than what we can ever imagine because it might be beyond our capabilities.
Yeah, it's really interesting because, like you said, we have had AI around for a while. If you think back to even just like basic PlayStation 2 games where you've got AI bots and stuff running around, like let's say that's pretty like otherworldly when you think back to, say, I don't know, Pac-Man from the 80s or something like that, for it to evolve into something like that with players moving around and stuff. And then you've got AI that can answer any kind of question like on ChatGPT and things like that. And it's taken out a lot of the labour in a lot of jobs and stuff where there's even one now where you can get an AI bot to learn how you edit photos, and it can do like 3,000 photos in 2 minutes, which is crazy.
Yeah, and what I think is we're kind of on the cusp of giving the keys of the car to the AI and letting that take control, letting that take over. And we're just sat on the back seat. Up until this point in history, mankind, humans, have been the superior dominant intelligence on the planet from what we know. All the top end developments in technology has come from humans. That might change, and it might get to the point that we can't even comprehend what they're doing. They're that much more advanced than what we are. So the things that they'll be doing would way beyond what we imagine. And I said the internet, I believe, was an accelerating technology. I think it just took things on leaps and bounds. I think AI could also be that next step and way, 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 way greater than what internet has. Because the internet was a man-made thing. Yeah, it developed a life of its own, people could say, but it's still a man-made thing. It was still created by us. It was our humans and our intellect what made the internet possible. But now, with giving the keys over to AI, we're not driving the car anymore, so we don't even know what they're capable of. Very much a superior being, or a superior intelligence, and that combined with the internet and its ability to take all the information and learnt resources what we've ever created as humans and learn them at a rate way beyond that we could ever fathom. I do believe potentially, well, you think things might slow down, I think they might speed up beyond our capacity. I think we're right there now. I think we're right there.
Have you seen the the conundrum with the two AI powered cars that are the driverless cars that are driving towards each other, and there's going to be a collision. And if you're in your car, and it's only you in the car, but say in the other car there's going to be like 5 or 6 people in there, the AI would make a decision to kill you to save them. Isn't that a weird sort of thing to ponder as well? How it would make that calculation, and unsentimentally it would kill you to save more people.
That's interesting, and I do know, I tell you why that's really interesting. I'm going to bore you a little bit, Do you know Star Trek at all?
I know a bit of it.
Right, there's like something that's always stuck with me, but there's 2 things with that. The one is something like one of the main characters, Spock, said, which was the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. Spock is Vulcan. Vulcans at the core are extremely logical. And it is logical. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. There is argument, not necessarily, who are these few? These few could be the brains that take us to the next level of evolution and cure cancer and all this kind of thing versus just a crowd of idiots. So it doesn't always work that straightforward. But what you said reminds me of Star Trek. But on top of that, there's something else that happened in Star Trek. Like I won't go on too much, but there's something called the Kobayashi-Maru test, right? And the Kobayashi-Maru test is a no-win situation. It's for captains, people who are going to be captains of ships, to see how they deal with death, loss, how are they going to deal with it. So when you're put in this simulation, you are going to fail. You are going to die. They're just trying to work out how you deal with that. Captain Kirk, obviously the lead protagonist in all this, he fixes the system, he edits the computer program and wins. In that situation that you described, if you tell somebody there's only option A and option B, some people will believe there's only option A and option B, but there are people out there who will stop and think, there's only an option A and option B because you're only telling me there's an option A and option B. That doesn't mean there's not really an option C. Whereas in a computer's mind, because it's running off algorithms, programs, logic-based systems, there's only an A and a B, but maybe it's a human quality, like how Kirk fixed the Kobayashi-Maru test. Just because somebody tells you there's only an A and a B doesn't mean there's not a C. And maybe that's where humans might have a little bit of something different than all the AI.
Interesting.
Something to think about.
Yeah. That has got me thinking a bit. It's not as linear as what I thought it was.
There's no, and I think that something that I remember seeing this as a kid. It's an old film. My dad used to watch Star Trek a lot, and this Kobayashi-Maru, this hypothetical dilemma where you're told, oh, this is what you're going to die in this simulation. It's how you deal with it. But one, he was like the kind of the rebel kind of character. He went and fixed it, but that was a great character. And also almost like narrative thread that would run through what would tell you about what could potentially happen with his character, because it would give you an indication of the way he thinks, which is a very human thing to do against, ironically, a Vulcan who programmed it, who works off logic. I know we've gone way off track about talking about cameras and stuff right now, but where it links back to editing software, where you left Premiere to go over to DaVinci Resolve. I'm going to ask you in a minute, why did you do so? Premiere, Adobe, seem to be really pushing AI, and they've got something coming out, I think it's called Firefly, and Firefly is allowing you to do so much in the video edit, akin to what you could do in Photoshop, where, for example, if you open up a briefcase and you filmed an empty briefcase, you can highlight it and you can just type in, like lots of gold. Next thing, boom, lots of gold. So as you open up, it looks like it's beyond CGI, and it's very user-friendly, where you can take things out of the scene, you can put things in. You won't need green screen anymore. You can just build backdrops live there, and obviously it maps and knows where things are in place. So it moves in that 3D environment, which mirrors real life, and that's the avenue they're going down. So with the advent of AI, which we've just been speaking about, there is a chance, even though I know a hell of a lot of people have left Premiere for DaVinci, maybe there's a chance that Premiere might have the opportunity to pull some people back in through how they're using AI.
Oh yeah, certainly. It certainly does entice me though. That sounds really good because the Photoshop version, I've used it extensively. It's amazing for recovering photos, expanding photos. I have complete control. If I'm doing a wedding image and I think it looks a bit too tight, I can completely expand the background if I want to, change things up and add whatever you want, and it looks realistic for the most part. There's some tweaking that you got to do, but it still looks really good. I saw a video about that where you can use Photoshop to expand backgrounds. Like just you sitting there, I could expand your background as long as the shot is static. So to see that directly implemented into Premiere would be quite game changing.
And you just said as long as the shot is static. What Firefly is doing is allowing it with motion, with depth to create. Well, it's a 3D environment. It's not just static. It's moving. To put these other elements into it, and if it's user friendly, and if it can perform as it's meant to perform, like it looks like in all the promotional material, that's very interesting. I have both. I have DaVinci Resolve, which I use primarily, and I still have Premiere because every now and then I have different clients, so there's different bits of software that only works in Premiere. It doesn't have the ability to work in DaVinci for whatever reason. So if I ever hit that hurdle, then I can just revert back to Premiere. So why did you leave Premiere and go to DaVinci?
Well, I wanted to take my color grading to the next level, and I quickly discovered when I was looking into, like, I was researching and looking at videos and stuff on how to color grade in Premiere more and make the most use of like my log footage, because it was when I just switched to, I think it was when I got an A7R3, and I decided I was going to try and use log on there, even though it's 8-bit. I wanted to test it out and stuff, and I quickly hit a wall with Premiere with what I could do. And it didn't seem very intuitive because I'd come from an environment of, like, before then I wasn't really using log. We were using Cine 4 back then, so there's not a lot of color grading that needs to go on that, just a bit of a LUT, and then you reduce the opacity. But for the most part it's done in camera. But then moving over to log, it was just, it creates a very clunky environment to work in. And then when you're working, you've got your layers on top, and like when you're editing, your adjustment layers are still there, so your color grading's kind of all messy and all in one place, and you're not supposed to color grade the clip, you're supposed to color grade the adjustment layer, and then you got to copy, and like that was the way I was taught in university to do that. And it just seems so much more intuitive with DaVinci. No dealing with external programs or anything like that. You can do it all. You got like the Firelight bit for the sound design, then you can go to the color tab and then the delivery tab, the cut page. You know what I mean? Those things just weren't as intuitive in Premiere, so I found at first it was hard to make the transition, but it took me in total, let's say, about 2 weeks. 2 weeks to get to the point where I was like, this is a much more powerful software for me to use now, and it's going to enhance my workflow and take my color grading to the next level.
Well, I was so reluctant because I got super speedy at Premiere. I knew all the shortcuts, I knew what everything did, and it was so intuitive for me to go on Premiere, drop the clips in. I knew how to grade through Premiere, but it was that's why, because I thought, God, if I move on to a new system, it's going to slow down my whole workflow. I'm going to have to work it out. I'm going to struggle to do the very simple things that I find so simple to do on Premiere, because I've been using Premiere for God knows how many years before that. And it was you said, just give it a try, and I did, because one thing that's really good about DaVinci is it offers you a free version, what's still really, really good. Obviously, it's got its limitations versus Studio, but it's got a lot of really. It's got enough where you can get away with an edit, and you can certainly learn the program without any kind of financial investment, just investment of time to learn it. So something else that I found really easy as well, you can change all the keys over so it matches the shortcuts that you're very familiar with, so it's not going to slow you down in any which way. And I went over to Resolve, and I actually didn't find it hard to move over. Once I obviously implemented my own shortcuts, what I just basically took from Premiere. And the miraculous thing about DaVinci is it's exactly the same file. It's the same bit of footage, but I seem to be able to get way more out of it through DaVinci than what I can in Premiere, even though it's the exact same file.
Yeah, I haven't used Premiere in a while. Are they still using the same system for color grading, where you've got to use adjustment layers and you've got to use it on the timeline?
Yeah, that's the way I do it. Obviously, you've got your scopes, you've got all the different kind of things that you've got. You've got your curves and scopes and the hues and hue versus saturation, hue versus hue. You've got all different things that are there. But again, it's when you first hear people talk about nodes and things like that, you're like, what is a node? What the hell? And then you might see like a node tree and you might be like, what even is this? This makes no sense to me at all. And the actual nervousness about trying it is way worse than actually when you get into it. Well, now I'm making, in no time at all, I was making quite sophisticated, complicated node trees. And by clicking on individual nodes, I could highlight the individual feature that I wanted to change in the edit. And it was, the layout of it would allow me to not get lost. So on Premiere, if you do that, if you'd use an adjustment layers in the same way as you'd use a node effectively, where that adjustment layer just is for your contrast, that one for your saturation, that one's for whatever it might, your shadows, whatever it might be. It just gets messy and it's just all over your timeline, unless other people are using Premiere in a different way. But it just wasn't conducive to a speedy workflow. So the thing that I was worried about was that DaVinci would slow me down. The opposite happened, where DaVinci actually now it's so intuitive, it's so easy to use. I can use DaVinci even though I've been using it for a fraction of the time I was using Premiere. I can use it way quicker and get way more out of my footage.
Yeah, I agree. And do you use the cut page as well?
Sometimes, but I don't find that I need it. But it didn't take long anyway that I was on it, and then I thought I'm gonna do it. So I went and bought, I paid for it, I went and got a studio. Because obviously I don't think you can edit 10-bit footage, can you?
No, there's a workaround, but
version.
you can't with the free version, no.
Yeah, so obviously that I wanted to do that to get, otherwise it's pointless for me. But something else, what was going on was at Premiere, it was a monthly subscription. So I was tied into it, and then for whatever reason, it wasn't mine. If I wanted to move where, if I couldn't afford that subscription, what some people might find themselves in for that particular month, I'd lost it. Where I didn't get that Resolve, and even though I paid a one-off fee for Resolve, I'm still getting frequent updates for it. I think we're on like 18.6 or something now, 18 point whatever we're on. I'm still getting frequent updates coming through the system when they're bringing out new technology. I'm not paying any more for it.
No, that makes sense. I think they gave me a free speed editor as well when I bought it, which is quite handy. Go on, sorry.
I don't know why I didn't get one.
I think they were running a promotion at the time.
Yeah, I was thinking, why did I get a speed editor? But yeah, it's far more intuitive. You've got across the bottom where you can split it into different sections where you can go to Fusion if you want to do any kind of like equivalent to After Effects kind of stuff. You've got what is it called? Farlight. Farlight, which is really easy to use, and then if you struggle with anything, there's a gazillion tutorials on there anyway on YouTube. The color tab is absolutely fantastic. It's probably the main reason I think that people moved over. And then I know you use the cut page quite a lot. Why do you use the cut page anyway? Why do you use it?
So what I do when I'm shooting a wedding, when I'm about to edit the wedding, is I take the ceremony video and I take the speeches video, and I put them both into the cut page. And then what I'll do is I'll go through and I'll cut it down to just the relevant bits for the voiceover track. So that's pretty much what it is. If you learn how to use it, it's very good at like it like you know when you cut something and then there's like a gap in the timeline, it gets rid of that in the cut page. You're only left with what you need. So it's just literally for cutting down footage. That's all it's used for. It's not for actual editing or composition. It's just for cutting down the footage. And I find it's a much faster way to do it because you're just using 3 keys. I use Q, W, and then the cut tool. That's it. And you can just go through with those three keys and cut everything you need.
It has to be good. It has to have its purpose. That it's made one of the main tabs.
Yeah.
In DaVinci Resolve. So obviously they've looked at it, and people who are far superior at me in post production, obviously they believe it's something that's beneficial. See other things as well, like the color space transform, where you can key in what you've used on camera. You can get like it interprets it accurately because you're telling it what you shot with and what picture profile you shot with and things like that. And the only thing with DaVinci, it doesn't really let it down, but again, obviously as a Sony user, for people who are even using the Atmos Ninja to shoot in RAW, all the full capabilities of RAW can't be used in DaVinci Resolve due to the patent that they've got with, I think it's with Apple because of that. I think there is basic features that can be used in Premiere Pro, but if you want to access the full, you have to go into Final Cut Pro, which is something that I've looked at and I got the demo, but it's just not for me.
No, I've tried a Final Cut Pro. I didn't find it intuitive at all. I found it quite a hindrance to use when I tried to use it. I think they're geared a little bit more, because it used to be the Premiere editing software. Cool choice of word there for it, but it used to be a lot more for professional editors. And then I think it was around 2015 to 17, they geared more towards like family people and, like just more basic kind of stuff. And that's what I found when I tried to use it, because I had someone who wanted me to edit some stuff for them, and they needed it done in Final Cut Pro, so I had to use it for a full project. And it was just a bit more clunky to use than Premiere or DaVinci.
I just didn't gravitate to it whatsoever, and I think I had it. I think I got the free trial of it. I was testing it out. I was looking at it because obviously I use Apple software as well. That it's the fastest edit software to use, because obviously it's made for, the Apple CPU and the Apple interface, and the Apple OS. But it's just not for me. I'd find now it'd be very difficult to leave DaVinci Resolve, and a couple of years ago that's something I'd have never said, because I was so engrossed into Premiere. But since I moved over, that I can't ever see me going back. My footage, especially my colour grading, has gone on leaps and bounds, and I just find it so much easier to use and intuitive than what Premiere was. And I know there's a lot of people who think the same as what I'm going to say now, which is like, thank God I jumped ship. I'm sorry, Premiere, and I hope Firefly offers something different. But it's not just Firefly; it's the usability of the actual program, and making it so it's more intuitive and makes more sense when you're using it. And by developing the integration of nodes, they did that.
Yeah, exactly. So it would make a difference for you then if Premiere did bring in a node system. That might be enough to bring you back.
Again, then I'm kind of in the moving around when we started this episode. I'm kind of in the same place as what I'm with the C400. Like, why would I go back? Why would I change and go do everything when I go back when I'm happy where I am? I'm happy with the FX6, and I'm happy with DaVinci Resolve. It would have to be monumental. It'd have to be the same as DaVinci Resolve plus some absolutely amazing AI system what could really revolutionise my workflow. It has to be to pull somebody over systems. It can't just be an incremental or slightly better, which is where the C400 is to the FX6. Also, we've got to factor in price as well. It has to make sense financially, but it has to be able to do things that are way beyond the capabilities of what current system you've got. And Firefly has the potential to do that, but it's more the usability of the system. What's got me onto DaVinci Resolve and it's going to keep me there, I think, for the foreseeable future at least. Also, as well, I feel much happier with that one-off monthly payment and they're still updating it rather than paying every single month like a subscription free to Adobe. It just doesn't sit right.
No, I definitely agree. I agree with that. Although I do still pay for Adobe Lightroom and stuff and Photoshop, the monthly payments as well, which brings me on to what I'm doing this week.
I feel stupid as well because I'm still paying it.
Yeah.
After all I've said, I'm still paying it.
Yeah, I only pay for the photography package though. I don't pay for Premiere.
No, I pay for everything.
How much is it? It's expensive.
Yeah. I'm still doing it. What are you doing this week, Tom?
This week I've got I don't think I've got any shoots till next week. I've got we didn't speak about this, did we? I've got I did, how many Indian weddings did I do? I did 4 weddings back to back, 12-hour days. That was pretty crazy last week. I did a Hindu ceremony which went on for 3.5 hours. But this week I'm just in post-production for those weddings, and I've got one wedding that I'm working on today, which is just photography, which is nice because it means I can have a podcast on in the background, or I can listen to some music while I'm doing it, which is much harder to do when you're doing video editing, sound editing stuff. And yeah, that's me for the week.
I'm pleased you said that, because before I move on to what I want to talk about next week, I just want to talk a little bit about what we're doing here right now with the camera guys, and eventually, if things go according to plan, we will move over to audio only as well, an audio option, a podcast option, as well as the video option, what sits right here on YouTube as we're just starting off. So you can listen to it in true podcast form if you're driving, or just plug it in, whatever, and hopefully it can appear on all the major apps that you'll use for your podcast. But we don't expect somebody to sit down and just watch us for an hour 20 minutes, or 50 minutes, whatever it is, and just listen to us like that. It's something that it's almost like an accompanying piece of media, where there's so many times that, because of the nature of our work, it is quite solo, and at times you're quite isolated. You don't often integrate with a lot of people. If you've got a big post-production project, like you said, you're in post-production, you'll find for many hours of the day that you're probably on your own.
Yeah.
So it's an opportunity. If you just want some background noise, you want to listen to people talk about the topics that you're interested in, cameras, just let it run in the background. Just listen to what we've got to say, and just let it accompany you as you do your edits, as you do your planning or anything like that. And because we believe, because we're two people who do this on a day-to-day basis, that there will be topics that will be discussed, what will speak to you if you're in the video world, or if you're looking to get into the video world. So we don't expect people to sit there and watch it. If you want to, then yeah, go for it. But the idea is that you've just got it playing in the background, so you can, if you wanted to, you can interact and you can subscribe to what we do. Because in time, we'd like to have a community where we can communicate with people through YouTube, whatever it might be, and we can help grow this community, and we can share our stories and different things that we've faced within videography.
Yeah, it's good to like help each other and share advice and stuff, because I've learned so much from other filmmakers and stuff, and it's just nice to have other people to speak to who are in the same medium as you and going through the same things and facing the same challenges and opportunities as you.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what this is. It's to listen to, because it's also nice sometimes where you think things aren't going your way, then you listen to us, which quite often we're quite comfortable talking about our failures and when things are going wrong. That you're not on your own. That there's other people out there who've experienced it too. If they've experienced the highs and lows of working in videography, which brings me on to something I want as one of our topics for next week. I want to talk about the value of an award.
I have opinions on this.
I won't go into too much detail because it's a topic for next week. But when Tom was back in the UK last year, Tom and I went to an awards event. I won't say where. And we was in the audience this film awards event, and well, if you tune in next week, we will fully explain what happened and what my thoughts are on awards and what took place that night.
That sounds good. Well, before we go, do you want to just quickly tell us what you're doing this week?
Do you know what? It's been quite good. I did shoot another real estate today, and it was an amazing property. It was something special. I was really impressed by the property, and everyone was really nice and got on really well. I didn't feel like I was being dictated to like I felt previously, and I felt it was a much nicer experience. I've done that. I'm in the middle of shooting my second/third documentary, and I've done some of that this week, filming it, and I had a corporate video project that I've handed in the first edit of it just today, and thankfully they love it. There's just a few minor tweaks that they want to be made on it, which is fine. I'll give them one revisal on it. So that's gone really, really well. So yeah, so far so good this week. Oh, and I'm doing a lot for the Pound World Strong from Real Lovelace. So tomorrow I'm out filming with her because she's got a lot of big events coming up, and they want some nice video for it. and working with her and all that lot. So lots going on for me in many different fields, and it'll take my mind away from the fact that this has got to be the worst summer ever.
Yeah, over there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really just, if you like grey skies and drizzle, then, you know, come to England.
The sun has absolutely opened up here. We've had really good days, 30 degrees quite a few times. The mountains look amazing. The snow's all receded now. Things are looking up.
Well, if, you know, Tom, if you grow what you're doing in Vancouver, and I'll come over there, and I'll join you in Canada, because even though I don't want to leave my native homeland, I can't wait to go away at summer, because I'm just sick of grey skies.
You just spent a lot of money on your kitchen, so you might as well stay there for a bit longer.
I have spent a lot of money on the kitchen, but equally, yeah. Oh, don't get me wrong. I've often toyed with the idea of going abroad and working abroad, and that'd be very interesting as well. But yeah, for now.
Well, that could be could be the back end of the podcast next week. We could talk about that. Moving abroad, challenges of starting a business again, overseas.
Yeah, I like it. All right, 2 main topics next week. One, we'll talk about awards and what we learnt in our thoughts. And second one, because I'm very interested, because obviously I know a lot about you going over to Canada and everything, but at the same time, the people out there might find it interesting to how you've got on with what you do in Canada versus what it was like when you were back home here in the UK.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's see it next week.
Right, Tom. Good chat as always. See you next week.
See you next week.
Bye-bye.